Okay, so last night, Clay and I watched Shrek the Third, also just known as Shrek 3, which I'll probably be calling it that throughout most of the video just because it rolls off the tongue better. So it was the first part of the double feature, the other, of course, being B-Movie, and we did watch them both, like, back to, it wasn't even like, all right, we're going to watch one. Well, I think we took a couple minutes off because Clay was, like, talking to his mom about something. But we watched them back to back. And my prediction for Shrek 3 was, I remember saying it, I was like, I think the movie is actually going to be pretty good. I am going to enjoy it. It's not going to be as good as Shrek. It's not going to be as good as Shrek 2. And I think that's kind of where the bad rep, its bad rep comes from. It's like, yeah, it's just not as good as these two, which are absolute classics. But honestly, it's not bad. Having recently watched the film, just my opinion, I was kind of right on the money. I really enjoyed Shrek 3. Now, there are some things I don't like about it, so I'll just try to talk about those first. Number one, the pacing feels kind of off. Like, I can't even really describe it, but there are just kind of like moments where I was like, this is either moving like a little fast or it's kind of moving a little slow. Fiona's just kind of not really in the movie. Like, she's huge in Shrek 1. In Shrek 2, it definitely feels more Shrek focused. But she still has her own stuff, like, dealing with her family, which I think is really interesting, and I love a lot of those interactions, and, like, her interact with the fairy godmother and shit. I think it's like, yeah, she's not in it as much as Shrek 1, but she still has a very strong presence and is still great. She's kind of sidelined for the majority of this movie. And granted, part of that is, well, she's pregnant, so she's not gonna go on the big adventure. Like, okay, that's fine, I get it. And she still has scenes with, like, the other fairy tale princesses. I want to call them Disney princesses so bad because that's kind of what I know them as. But they are fairy tale first, Disney second, and Rapunzel is in there. She was not a Disney princess at the time, but she is now. And I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but Rapunzel is the one that betrays them. You're like, wait, so the one that was not yet a Disney princess is the one that actually did the betraying. Is that a coinky dink or is that on purpose? I don't know. But I noticed that, and I kind of appreciated it. Like, another thing that doesn't super add up to me is the beginning of the movie. It's not, like, right at the beginning, it's pretty early. Charming goes to the poison apple, and it's kind of like, hello, villains. This is my plan, and, we haven't gotten our happily ever afters and shit, which I love. That's not a let me put a pin in, I'm going to put a pin in Charming. He's one of my favorite things in the movie. Like, we'll talk about that. But it's how I don't remember the name of this stepsister. Doris is the one from Shrek 2, which she's also in this one. Like, Maybelline, it was something like that. And she's like, Doris isn't welcome around here anymore. Neither are you, pretty boy. I'm like, what did we miss? Like, no, genuinely, what did we miss? Like, what did Doris do to get exiled from everybody? Is there, like, a side special I missed? Was this something in, like, a game that was canon? Because I didn't see anything in Shrek 2 to suggest that. And why is Charming their enemy? I mean, I don't know if he was ever good with them in the first place, but he's clearly a bad guy, too, with the shit he was trying to pull, so you think he would be welcome amongst the villains? Like, it was like this. I don't really get it. And so that was just something I didn't really care for. I didn't find Merlin that funny. I didn't hate him, but I was like, oh, it's Eric Idle. Like, I think I tend to like Eric Idle. I don't know. I just wasn't super getting into his shtick. I guess getting back to the Disney princesses, because I can't not call them that. For the most part, I thought they were okay. Like, they don't really do a whole lot with Rapunzel when she's there or after she betrays them. Cinderella has one funny scene where she's, like, washing a floor and is talking to her reflection. But aside from that, I didn't think she was that funny. I didn't really think Sleeping Beauty was that funny. We'll save Snow White for later because I actually really like what they did with Snow White. I like the shit they did with Shrek. So I guess the other thing... So those, I think, are the things I dislike about the movie. And then there's jokes that don't quite land. I don't think there were a whole lot that made me go, wow, that was unfunny. But there were some that were just kind of okay or just didn't quite make me laugh. The closest is, I guess, just the high school thing, but if you've seen me if you saw my Witch from Mercury video, you know that I love dumb high school bullshit, which admittedly wasn't as much of that at Witch from Mercury as I would have liked, but the show was great anyways, but I love dumb high school bullshit. So when it's like, oh yeah, these are a lot of really easy jokes, these are a lot of just like cliches, annoying tropes, but I love them. So I'm like, I'm enjoying this part of the movie. It definitely kind of slows down for a bit. It's not as enjoyable as the like first chunk, which I really liked, but I still liked it. I still had fun with it. Also, there's a scene when Shrek walks into the gym and the school band is playing All Star. Like, I don't think Clay noticed it. At first I was like, Clay, I don't think you noticed it. You gotta rewind this real quick. And he's like, what happened? He's like, just trust me. I was like, okay, I get it. I really enjoyed that little touch. Artie. King Arthur. Which, I even said to Clay going in, I was like, man, it's gonna be weird seeing King Arthur in a piece of media and it not be a woman. Fate has completely altered my perception of King Arthur. It's kind of weird. But I think he's fine. I can't even say I don't think he's particularly funny. He's just not funny, but he's not really written funny. Aside from, like, a couple scenes where he's, like, really hamming it up, like when he's hamming it up to Merlin, like, I liked it. It wasn't amazing, but I kind of had some fun with it. The scene, though, when he's hamming it up to the guards, like, do you know who he thinks he is? He is, like, a diva actor, and he's gonna be in the show. That was funny. I really liked that bit. But and it's, like, his whole thing, like, he's a loser, he's getting picked on, but now he's gonna not be, like, it's fine. I like the speech he gives at the end of the movie to the villains. It was really funny because the entire time I was like, this is just reminding me of the pub scene from Tangled. And when the scene was done, Clay looks at me. He's like, are you getting Tangled vibes too? I was like, bro, as soon as he started talking, I was like, this is just Tangled. And I mean, again, Rapunzel's in the movie, so I guess it kind of works. Maybe someone from Disney saw that scene, saw they had Rapunzel and just went, I can see what's happening. But yeah, I think Artie is not bad, but he's not, like, really good either. I think he's okay. I guess another thing I think is kind of alright is the climax. That, like, the part with, like, just Shrek roasting Charming in front of the entire audience. That's great. I think that was hilarious. But I like the idea that he's putting on this whole show. I'll put it like this. I like the climax. I don't think it's bad. It's not as good as it is in Shrek 2. Shrek 2 is one of my favorite movie climaxes of all time. Like, it is incredible. This one is good. But I guess then I should go ahead and talk about the things I like about the movie. I liked a lot of the jokes. I think a lot of the humor works. I like Donkey and Puss. There's a part where they get their bodies switched. It doesn't last super long, maybe like 20 minutes or so. I liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. I love Alpha Bitch Snow White. I think that is hilarious. For whatever reason, I'm like, this is really funny to me. I love her just not taking anyone's shit all the time. So this is not like a thing I disliked, liked, or was somewhere in the middle. This is kind of a weird note, and I just remembered it, so I need to bring it up. In my Puss in Boots 2 video, I talked about how we had the Big Bad Wolf, but how in this, we also have the Big Bad Wolf, so they've, like, reused characters, which is kind of interesting. So a couple notes on that. One, Rumpelstiltskin is in this movie, despite being the main antagonist of the next Shrek movie, and looks completely different, and is just a completely different character. Just thought I would bring that up. So, very clearly, the Shrek franchise has no problems with reusing a character. I think so long as they weren't super important, because Rumpel in here, not super important. Then you get him in 4, where he's the main antagonist. The wolf in the Shrek movies is like a minor character that just kind of sits and goes, what? And then in Puss in Boots 2, he's the best thing in the movie, where the entire movie is the best thing in the movie. So, I remember mentioning that as like, I don't remember them ever using Red Riding Hood. Like, she shows up for like 2 seconds in Shrek 2 as like a quick joke, and that's it. And you would think with like a character that well known, like, I think to me, she is the most, her and the wolf to me are the most iconic fairy tale characters. Now, other people can disagree with that. Like, maybe if I had a full listed for him, be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Like, yeah, we all know Snow White, Cinderella, and all that shit. But when I think of fairy tales, it's Little Red Riding Hood is the first one that comes to mind. So, I was like, the fact that she's just, like, not had a big role in a Shrek movie is fucking weird. Maybe they're gonna do that in Shrek 5. She's in this movie. She's actually one of the villains. Like, she doesn't get any lines. But as they're, when Charming first goes into the poison apple, yeah, you just see her just like at her own table. It's like, what the fuck? Is that Red Riding Hood? And there's a scene later when they're like pillaging far, far away where she just pickpockets somebody. Like, oh, I guess she is in the movies. She doesn't do much, but she's technically there. Like, I want to see her get a bigger role. Like, I don't know what they're going to do with her, but I can only hope. But had to bring that up. So back to the things I really like. Like I said, I like our main characters. I love Shrek. I love the character of Shrek. I really like him in this movie because I felt like this feels like a more mature version of Shrek. And I don't mean that as like, oh yeah, this is a far more adult kind of movie. I just mean like, I feel like this is a character who has grown. So he feels a little more chill. Now, granted, he definitely still has his auger moments, but I don't know. It was just kind of a vibe I got. I was like, this feels like a very different Shrek from the start of Shrek 1. And given that this is the third movie, I really like that. I like that his thing in the movie is, well, like, I'm an ogre. I shouldn't be a king. I can't do this fancy shit. I know there's got to be someone else who can do it. Someone who's probably better suited for it than me. But also, he's like, oh, I'm about to be a father. I wasn't really prepared for that. I'm kind of terrified of this. And it's not, and I like the vibe I get is that he's like, I'm not scared of having children and how that's going to like change my life. I'm scared of being a bad father, of doing a terrible job, of not raising them right, of like looking away for 1 second and then they get hurt. I need to be like, I don't know if I'm good enough to raise Fiona's children. And I really liked that. Now they don't do, like there's moments where it's there. There's other moments where they're just like not as focusing on it, but I liked that. And I think that's why I really don't hate what they did with Artie. Because of the relationship he has with Shrek. It's almost kind of like a fatherly thing, and how Artie's like, oh yeah, like I had a dad and then he just kind of left me and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I like, Shrek is almost like a foster father. I remember he's not in Shrek Forever After. I don't know if he's going to be in Shrek 5. I would assume so, and like, yeah, I kind of want to see how that progresses. That I would be genuinely interested in that. Okay, so the scene when Shrek has a nightmare about like being a dad, and then, you know, the ogre babies all kind of overwhelm him and he's scared because he's like, oh no, I gotta keep this one getting hurt, this one getting hurt, blah, blah, blah. I think it's funny. I like it. When he wakes up and it's like, oh, what happened? And then Shrek and Donkey and Puss turn over and they have the ogre faces and you have Eddie Murphy just going, da-da. I laughed so hard. So fucking hard at that. It was amazing. The fucking funeral for the dad, and they got the frog singing Live and Let Die, and then he's put in a fucking shoebox that just says Ye Old Footlocker. Like the entire scene where he's slowly dying, I was like, is I can't tell, is this scene a little too mean-spirited? Or is it just the right amount and is funny? I'm like, I think the gag's going on a little bit too long, but I still think it's like, it's the right mix of funny mean-spiritedness and genuinely kind of heartwarming. Then when he's in a box and it says Ye Old Footlocker, Clay's like, oh no, this to me is too mean-spirited. I'm like, no man, I think this is hilarious. That's so bad. This is amazing. So I think I've talked about everything that I wanted to aside from Charming, so let's rip that pen out. I'm not gonna say he's my favorite thing in the movie, because I'm not quite sure what that is. It might just be the da-da joke, because of how fucking hard I laughed at it, or the little all-star playing in the background. I really like Prince Charming. Now, I liked him in Shrek 2 as well. But, okay, so the movie literally starts with him putting on, like, a dinner theater show, getting roasted. He huffs out, goes into his dressing room, which is not actually a dressing room. It is just a door that leads into an alleyway where his mirror is, because he is now a loser. That's funny. Like, that's, it's mean-spirited as hell. He's also a piece of shit. But I do like, to me, this makes a lot of sense. I am not going to say he was cheated out of his happily ever after, because Shrek earned that shit. And I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, but I'm pretty sure the fairy godmother is the one that put the spell on Fiona. So they basically, set up some bullshit. So you were the ones cheating. You weren't cheated out of anything, kiddo. But he did lose his happily ever after that he had been raised for. He's like, I am going to marry this woman. I am going to become the king. This is what I am all about. This is what my life has been building toward. And in one fell swoop, it is all gone. And then he loses his mom, who was someone he genuinely, that is one thing I do like, is that they have a very sweet and genuine relationship. And then he loses her too. And now he's just a loser. He doesn't really know what to do. And he's like, I'm going to do something to get my happily ever after back. And then he goes to the other villains. He's like, hey, I lost the shit I wanted. You did too. You did too. You did too. You lost your hand to Peter Pan. You're no longer the fairest in the land. I wasn't trying to make that rhyme, but I actually kind of, I fucked with that. Those almost bars for a second. He's like, you lost this. You lost this. Come on. Why don't we deserve happily ever afters? Who's with me? Like, I actually kind of dig that. Now, am I on their side? No, he's still an asshole. Like I said, Shrek earned his shit. I fucking love this dude. But I actually really liked that. And then you get the end of the movie where it's like, all right, he's about to have his big moment and Shrek is just roasting him alive, which is great. Dragon knocks over the giant prop tower and it falls on him and it seemingly crushes him. However, earlier in the movie, the same thing happened and the window part landed on him, so he was fine. Kind of like, I guess another way to visualize it, if you've seen Aladdin, which you probably have, it's Aladdin. And there's that scene where he's in the snow area and the giant tower is rolling down. He's like, okay, if that window part lands on me, I am safe. And so he times it perfectly. That's basically what happens to Charming, and it looks like it happens twice. And on the one hand, as it's falling, he just looks and goes, Mommy, and then gets crushed. So it's almost like, oh, okay, he's right about to die. And so we kind of saw his mom who was there on the other side, I guess. Or alternatively, no, it just didn't crush him. He might be alive? I don't know. It's but yes, he's not in forever after, so he's probably dead. But if they really wanted to, they could keep him around for Shrek 5. But I feel like after this, his story arc is kind of done, so I don't know. But I really did enjoy what they did with Charming. I enjoyed what they did with Shrek. I actually enjoyed a lot of the humor in the movie. Is it as good as the first one? I genuinely don't think so. Hell no is it as good as 2. But I feel like this, to me, with the genuine level of enjoyment I had, at worst, it's an A-. But I feel like I have enough genuine problems where I'm all right, some of these side characters really aren't that funny. The pacing's really weird. The climax is good, not great. The big new character they added, I think is all right. I kind of like some of the things with him, but I don't think he's that funny. Oh, there was one joke I wanted to bring up, and it's when Shrek is trying to relate to him, and he's like, hey, yo, I'm, down with whatever you're putting up, dude. I thought that was hilarious. It was one of those scenes, it's like, to me, this is like The Office. This is just cringe comedy. The writing is not what is funny. It is not, yo, Shrek's saying all these cool things and that's funny. It's Shrek is trying his best and failing miserably. This is gold. This is fucking great. Also, I did not know that Doris was voiced by Larry King. That feels like something I should have known, and maybe I knew a long time ago. But when I learned that, like, yesterday, I was like, wait, what? Yeah, because I think I was telling Clay, I was like, yeah, Larry King is in B-Movie. He's like, oh, that's weird. Doesn't he also voice Doris? Like, what? No fucking way. So, like, I gotta bring that up. We got, our double feature was just 2 movies with Larry King. But, yeah, like, I feel like, given my general and genuine enjoyment of the film, but like, all right, there were some things that didn't quite work. I feel like a B+, maybe an A-, feels pretty accurate. And it's kind of what I was, I guess that's the thing. I was expecting to say, this movie is not so bad. I enjoyed it. I was thinking like a C tier going in, but watching it, like, this is actually good. Would I watch it again? I would. I wouldn't watch it over Shrek or Shrek 2, but I think I would still watch it. I don't know, because I know I've seen Forever After, and I remember not liking it. I think I'm just not a huge fan of that kind of story, but we'll see when we rewatch it, because it was like 10 years ago. It is very possible that since then my tastes have changed a lot. I'm like, okay, this movie's fucking hilarious. This is a really interesting take on these characters. This is a really good ending, because we're getting a 5, which I am looking forward to. Like, I made it sound like I'm not, but like, after Puss in Boots 2, I am very much looking forward to Shrek 5. Yeah, I don't really think I have anything else to say about it. First part of the double feature, good shit.